The rain pounded down like angry fists on the cold concrete. 16-year-old Maya stood shivering outside the tall iron gates, her torn sneakers soaked through. Behind those gates sat the biggest mansion she had ever seen, with golden lights twinkling in every window. Maya's stomach growled so loud it hurt. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her clothes were dirty and wet, and she had nowhere to go. The foster home had kicked her out when she turned 16. No money, no family, no hope. Then she saw it. A beautiful wooden doghouse in the corner of the yard. It was bigger than most closets, with a little porch and everything. It looked warm. It looked safe. Maya pressed her face against the cold metal bars. "Please," she called out into the darkness. "I just need somewhere to sleep. Even your doghouse would be better than the streets." Suddenly, a deep voice spoke from the shadows behind her. "Did you just ask to sleep in my dog's house?" Maya spun around, her heart hammering. A tall man in an expensive black coat stood there, watching her with dark eyes. Even in the dim streetlight, she could see his clothes cost more than most people made in a year. This was Marcus Wellington, the richest man in the city. Everyone knew his name. Everyone knew his face from the newspapers. Maya's cheeks burned with shame, but desperation made her brave. I'm sorry, sir. I know it sounds crazy, but I have nowhere else to go. I promise I won't cause any trouble. I just need one night." Marcus stepped closer, studying her with those sharp eyes. Rain dripped from his perfectly styled hair, but he didn't seem to notice. For a long moment, he said nothing. Maya held her breath. This was it. He would call the police, or worse, just walk away and leave her to freeze. But then Marcus did something that made Maya's world stop spinning. He smiled. Not a kind smile. Not a cruel smile. Something else entirely. "You know what?" Marcus said, his voice so quiet Maya had to strain to hear it over the rain. "I think that can be arranged." Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? You mean it?" Marcus pulled out a golden key from his pocket. The metal gleamed even in the dark. "But first," he said, "you need to understand something important about that doghouse." He paused, watching Maya's face carefully. "My dog died 3 years ago." Maya felt confused. "So it's empty?" Marcus's smile grew wider, but something about it made Maya's skin crawl. "Oh no, my dear girl, it's not empty at all." The key turned in the lock with a loud click that seemed to echo through the stormy night. The gate swung open with a long, creaking sound. "Come," Marcus said, gesturing toward the mansion. "Let me show you exactly what lives in that doghouse now." As Maya stepped through those gates, she had no idea that her life was about to change forever. She thought she was just looking for shelter from the storm. She had no clue she was walking straight into the most shocking night of her life. Maya followed Marcus up the winding stone path, her wet shoes squelching with every step. The mansion loomed above them like a giant monster, its windows glowing like yellow eyes in the darkness. "You're very young to be on the streets alone," Marcus said as they walked. His voice was calm, but Maya noticed he kept glancing at her from the corner of his eye. "I aged out of foster care," Maya mumbled, wrapping her thin jacket tighter around herself. "They said I was old enough to take care of myself now." Marcus made a clicking sound with his tongue. "How terrible. And your parents?" "Dead." The word came out flat and cold. Maya had learned not to feel anything when she said it anymore. They reached the front door, a massive wooden thing with metal handles shaped like lion heads. Marcus pulled out another key, this one silver and old-looking. "Before we go inside," he said, turning to face Maya completely, "I want to make sure you understand something. Once you accept my help, there's no going back. Do you understand what I mean?" Maya frowned. "No going back to what?" "To the life you had before." Marcus's eyes seemed to shine in the darkness. "Sometimes kindness comes with a price. Dear girl, sometimes people who help you expect something in return." A cold shiver ran down Maya's spine that had nothing to do with the rain. Something felt wrong. But where else could she go? The streets were dangerous, especially for a girl alone. At least this man was offering her shelter. "I understand," Maya said, though she really didn't. The door swung open, and warm air rushed out to greet them. Maya gasped. The inside of the mansion was like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. The floors were made of shiny marble that reflected everything like mirrors. But as they walked deeper into the house, Maya started to notice strange things. There were no family photos anywhere, no pictures of friends or loved ones, just expensive paintings of sad-looking people in old-fashioned clothes. And it was too quiet, way too quiet for such a big house. Where is everyone? Maya asked, "Don't you have servants or a family?" Marcus stopped walking. For a moment, his friendly mask seemed to slip, and Maya saw something cold and empty in his face. "I prefer to live alone," he said simply. "People can be so disappointing." They walked through room after room. A dining room with a table long enough for 20 people, but only one chair. A living room with beautiful furniture that looked like no one had ever sat in it. Everything was perfect, but it felt dead, like a museum. Finally, they reached a set of glass doors that led to the backyard. "There it is," Marcus said, pointing outside. "Your new home." Through the rain-streaked glass, Maya could see the doghouse. It was even bigger than it had looked from the street, almost like a tiny cabin. But now that she was closer, she could see something that made her blood run cold. There were scratches all over the door, deep scratches, like something had been trying to claw its way out. What made those marks? Maya whispered. Marcus placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. His fingers felt ice cold through her wet jacket. "Why don't we go find out?" Marcus opened the glass doors, and the sound of rain rushed in like a waterfall. Maya hesitated at the doorway. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, but where could she go? Back to the cold, dangerous streets? "Come on," Marcus said, stepping out into the storm. "Don't be afraid." But Maya was afraid, more afraid than she'd ever been in her life. They walked across the perfectly manicured lawn, their feet sinking into the wet grass. The doghouse sat in the far corner of the yard, under a big oak tree. As they got closer, Maya could see more details that made her stomach twist. The scratches weren't just on the door. They were all around the entrance, deep gouges in the wood like something desperate had tried to escape. There were metal bars on the tiny windows, bars that were meant to keep something in, not out. "Mr. Wellington," Maya said, her voice shaking. "I don't think I want to sleep here anymore. Maybe I should just go." Marcus grabbed her wrist. His grip was like iron. "But we had a deal," he said. His kind voice was gone now, replaced by something cold and sharp. "You begged to sleep in my doghouse. I'm simply granting your wish." Maya tried to pull away, but Marcus was too strong. Panic flooded through her like ice water. "Let me go. I changed my mind." "Oh, my dear girl," Marcus laughed, and the sound made Maya's skin crawl. "I'm afraid it doesn't work that way." He dragged her toward the doghouse door. Maya could see a heavy padlock hanging from a latch. This wasn't a shelter, it was a prison. "You see," Marcus continued, his voice casual like he was talking about the weather, "I've been so lonely since my last guest left. She lived in this little house for almost 6 months before well, let's just say she's not with us anymore." Maya's blood turned to ice. What did you do to her? Nothing she didn't deserve. Marcus pulled out a key ring with dozens of keys. People are so ungrateful these days. I offer them shelter, food, warmth, and how do they repay me? They try to escape. They scream and cry and make such a fuss. He found the right key and started unlocking the padlock. "But you seem different, Maya. You begged for this. You wanted to live like a dog, so that's exactly what you'll get." The lock clicked open. Maya summoned every ounce of strength she had and broke free from Marcus's grip. She ran toward the house, her feet sliding on the wet grass, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Behind her, she heard Marcus's calm voice calling out, "There's nowhere to run, dear. The gates are locked. The walls are too high. And I have all night to catch you." Maya reached the glass doors and yanked on the handles. Locked. She pounded on the glass with her fists. "Help! Somebody help me!" But who would hear her? Marcus lived alone in this huge mansion. far from any neighbors. She turned around and saw Marcus walking toward her slowly, like a cat stalking a mouse. He wasn't running. He didn't need to. He knew she was trapped. "Please," Maya sobbed. "I'll do anything. I'll clean your house. I'll work for you. Just please don't lock me in that thing." Marcus smiled that terrible smile again. "Oh, you will work for me. You'll be my perfect little pet. And when I get bored of you," well, he shrugged, "there's always room for one more in the garden." That's when Maya noticed them. Small mounds of dirt scattered around the yard. Fresh graves hidden among the flower beds. Marcus was close enough now that Maya could see her reflection in his dark eyes. "Now, are you going to walk back to your new home like a good girl, or do I need to drag you?" Maya looked around desperately. The gates were too far. The walls were too high. But then she saw something that made her heart skip. A small gap under the garden gate. Just big enough for someone small to squeeze through. It was her only chance. Maya pretended to give up, letting her shoulders slump. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll go." Marcus's smile grew wider. Smart girl. But as he reached out to grab her arm again, Maya dropped to the ground and rolled toward the gate as fast as she could. Maya squeezed under the gate like her life depended on it. Because it did. The metal scraped against her back, tearing her jacket, but she didn't care. She could hear Marcus shouting behind her, his calm mask finally cracking. "You stupid girl. There's nowhere to hide." Maya burst onto the empty street, her bare feet slapping against the wet pavement. The storm was getting worse, and lightning lit up the sky like angry white fire. She had to find help, but every house on this rich street was dark and far away. Behind her, she heard the screech of the iron gates opening. Marcus was coming after her. Maya's lungs burned as she ran down the street, but she couldn't stop. She could hear Marcus's heavy footsteps getting closer and closer. He was bigger, stronger, and he knew these streets better than she did. "Help me!" Maya screamed into the storm, but her voice was swallowed by thunder. "Somebody please help me." She turned down a narrow alley, hoping to lose him in the maze of back streets. But it was a dead end. Tall brick walls surrounded her on three sides, and Marcus's shadow appeared at the alley's entrance. "End of the road, little pet," Marcus called out, his voice echoing off the walls. "You've caused me quite enough trouble for one night." Maya pressed herself against the cold brick wall. She was trapped like a rat in a cage. But then she looked up and saw something that gave her hope, a fire escape ladder hanging just out of reach. Maya stacked some old trash cans on top of each other, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip them. The metal cans clanged and clattered, making enough noise to wake the dead. "What are you doing up there?" Marcus was getting closer. "Come down here right now, or I'll make your stay in the doghouse much more unpleasant." Maya jumped as high as she could and grabbed the bottom rung of the ladder. Her sweaty palms slipped, but she held on tight and pulled herself up. The ladder groaned under her weight, but held. She climbed up to the first platform just as Marcus reached the trash cans below. He looked up at her with rage burning in his eyes. "You can't stay up there forever," Marcus shouted. "And when you come down, I promise you'll regret making me chase you." But Maya wasn't planning to come down. She climbed higher and higher, past dark windows and sleeping families who had no idea a killer was in their neighborhood. At the top of the building, Maya found herself on a flat rooftop. She could see the whole city spread out below her, twinkling lights in the darkness. But she could also hear Marcus climbing up behind her, his heavy breathing getting closer with each step. Maya looked around desperately. The next building was too far to jump to. There was nowhere left to run. That's when she saw it. An old radio antenna with wires running from the rooftop down to a telephone pole on the street. It was her only way down, but one wrong move would send her falling to her death. Maya could hear Marcus reaching the top of the ladder. In seconds, he would be on the rooftop with her. She grabbed the wire with both hands. It was slippery from the rain and cut into her palms, but she held on tight and started sliding down toward the street below. "No!" Marcus screamed from behind her. "Get back here!" Maya was halfway down when she heard a loud crack. She looked up and saw Marcus pulling on the antenna, trying to shake her loose. The whole structure was wobbling dangerously. The wire snapped. Maya fell through the air, her stomach dropping like a stone. The ground rushed up to meet her, and she closed her eyes, sure she was about to die. But instead of hitting concrete, Maya crashed to the canvas roof of a hot dog cart, landing in a pile of buns and mustard bottles. She was bruised and covered in ketchup, but she was alive. The hot dog vendor, an old man named Eddie, jumped back in shock. What in the world? Please help me. Maya gasped, struggling to get out of the cart. There's a man trying to kill me. He lives in the big mansion, and he keeps people locked up and... Slow down, kid, Eddie said, helping her stand up. What man? What mansion? Maya pointed up at the rooftop where Marcus stood silhouetted against the stormy sky. But as she watched, he stepped back into the shadows and disappeared. He was right there. Maya cried, You have to believe me. His name is Marcus Wellington, and he was going to lock me in his doghouse. And Eddie's face went white as a sheet. Did you say Marcus Wellington? Maya nodded frantically. You know him? Eddie pulled out an old cell phone with shaking hands. Kid, Marcus Wellington has been dead for 5 years. Maya felt the world spin around her. That's impossible. I just talked to him. He chased me. He was going to lock me in his doghouse. Eddie looked at Maya like she was crazy. Listen, kid, I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life. Marcus Wellington died in a car crash 5 years ago. That mansion has been empty ever since. No. Maya shook her head, so hard it hurt. I was just there. The lights were on. He opened the gates with a key. But even as she said it, Maya started to remember strange things. How Marcus's hand had felt ice cold when he touched her shoulder. How his breath hadn't made any fog in the cold air. How perfectly clean his expensive clothes had been despite standing in the pouring rain. Eddie was already dialing 911. We need to get you to a hospital, kid. You might have hit your head when you fell, or maybe you're having some kind of... Wait, Maya interrupted. A terrible thought was creeping into her mind. If the mansion is empty, then why did I see lights in the windows? Eddie frowned. What lights? Maya pointed toward the mansion, but what she saw made her legs almost give out. The huge house sat in complete darkness. Every window was black. No golden lights twinkling anywhere. The gates, Maya whispered. I came through the gates. Together, Maya and Eddie walked back toward the mansion. Maya's heart pounded with every step. When they reached the tall iron gates, Maya grabbed the bars and pulled. The gates didn't budge. They were held shut with a thick chain and an old, rusty lock that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Kid, Eddie said gently, these gates have been locked since the day Marcus died. Nobody's been in or out of this place. Maya stared through the bars at the dark mansion. In the dim streetlight, she could see the doghouse in the corner of the overgrown yard. But it wasn't the beautiful wooden structure she remembered. It was old and falling apart, with weeds growing through the roof. I don't understand, Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. That's when Eddie's phone buzzed with a text message. He looked at the screen, and his face went pale. Maya, he said slowly. What's your last name? Johnson. Maya Johnson. Why? Eddie showed her the text message. It was from his nephew who worked at the city records office. Uncle Eddie, I looked up that name you asked about. Maya Johnson, age 16, died 3 days ago. Exposure and starvation. Found under the bridge on 5th Street. Maya read the message 3 times before it sank in. That can't be right. I'm standing right here. I'm alive. But as she said it, Maya looked down at her hands. In the streetlight, she could see right through them to the pavement below. Oh my God, Eddie breathed, stumbling backward. You're dead. Maya finished. The word felt strange in her mouth. Suddenly, everything made sense. The cold she'd felt that never went away. The way her stomach had stopped growling after that first night under the bridge. The way people on the street had looked right through her like she wasn't there. Maya had died alone and afraid, just like she'd lived. But somehow, her spirit had been drawn to that mansion, to Marcus Wellington, another lost soul wandering in the darkness. We were both ghosts, Maya whispered. He thought he was still alive, and so did I. Eddie was backing away, his eyes wide with fear. I'm sorry, kid. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. But you need to move on. Go to the light, or whatever it is ghosts are supposed to do. Maya looked back at the dark mansion one more time. She understood now why Marcus had seemed so lonely, so desperate for company. Being dead was the loneliest thing in the world, but Maya wasn't ready to give up yet. Eddie, she said, and her voice was stronger now, I need you to do something for me. What? Call the police. Tell them to search that mansion. Check under the doghouse. Check the garden. Marcus Wellington might be dead, but the people he killed, their families deserve to know what happened to them. Eddie nodded slowly. You think he really did kill people? Even before he died? Maya smiled sadly. Some monsters are born that way, Eddie. Death doesn't change who you really are inside. As Eddie made the call, Maya felt something changing inside her. The anger and fear were fading away, replaced by something else. Peace. She had found her purpose. Even in death, she could still help people. She could make sure the families of Marcus's victims got closure. She could turn her terrible experience into something meaningful. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They broke through the gates and searched the property. Under the doghouse, they found the remains of 7 people who had gone missing over the past 10 years. In the garden, they found 3 more. Maya watched from the street as the officers carried out bag after bag of evidence. Families would finally get answers. The missing would finally be found. Thank you, whispered a voice beside her. Maya turned and saw a young woman in a nurse's uniform, her face pale and translucent like Maya's own. You were one of his victims? Maya asked. The woman nodded. 3 years ago. I've been trapped here ever since, unable to move on. But now that the truth is out, I can finally rest. One by one, other spirits appeared, all of Marcus's victims, all waiting for this moment of justice. They smiled at Maya with gratitude before fading away into the night, finally free. As the sun began to rise, Maya felt herself getting lighter, like she was made of morning mist. Her work here was done. She had begged a dead millionaire to sleep in a doghouse, and in the end, that desperate plea had saved 10 families from a lifetime of wondering what happened to their loved ones. Sometimes the most shocking answers come from the most unexpected places. Maya smiled one last time and let herself drift away on the dawn wind, finally at peace. If this story gave you chills, like this video and share it with someone who loves supernatural mysteries. Your support helps us create more spine-tingling stories that will keep you guessing until the very end. Comment below, what other mysterious stories would you like to see? We read every single comment and love hearing your ideas. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more incredible true stories, shocking twists, and mysteries that will blow your mind.